Da-da-da-da.
Yeah,
It's in progress. There we go. Now I'm just
God.
melting my brains. See, I've gotten spoiled living in the mountains. It's not that hot, but I'm like, it's too hot. This sucks.
I can see the perspiration on your forehead.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I have the air conditioner on in this room now. That's the thing in Japan. There's no central air. So you get a room
Yeah.
with air conditioning and block it off and turn it on. And yeah.
Yeah, that's what our bedroom looks like. It has an air conditioning unit that like pulls in air from the window. And that's the only cool room in the house, which I mean, we're in like the 70s now, so it's not much to really complain about. But we were up to 100 for there for like a couple days. So,
I don't know because it's all Celsius, right? So
oh yeah, I haven't learned to convert to Celsius. I think it's like
I'm like,
35
yeah, it's like it's
Celsius.
34. It's so hot. I can't handle it. And people are, what?
Yeah.
Huh?
No, that's pretty bad.
But yeah, yeah, let's see what else. Yeah, yeah, this and then I think Wednesday, Thursday morning, some morning this week, I'm doing The Bard, which actually did get a request in the end. So
The movie The Bard.
the episode The Bard is it's the one after this. It's the last one for
Oh,
season
oh,
four.
the
And
finale.
yeah, it was
Okay.
originally I had assigned it to someone and I was like, oh, that's like me serving them a shit sandwich, right? So but
Is it
then
bad?
The Bard, yeah, but then Luke was like, that's it's Shakespeare. I'm British. I have to do it. I was like, yeah, sure.
Rod Serling wrote it.
Hmm?
Rod Serling wrote that one.
Yeah, but he wrote some crap.
Okay.
Everybody writes some crap, you know? How do you know it's good if
Yeah.
you didn't write some crap too? I don't know.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it yet. I could love it. Maybe I'll watch it and be like, this is the best, but
It
mm,
has Burt Reynolds in it.
that's pretty cool. Yeah. So no, but it usually ends up on the bottom three
Mm.
Twilights. And let's see how they're rated. Let's see what the Bard is rated. And then I'll compare to this one just for fun.
Yeah,
Not
I'm not going to make a case that this is a good episode. I just really like it.
the Bard. Oh, it actually just showed me Shakespeare. Titles. Wow, this is hard to find. Okay. More popular matches.
I just put Twilight Zone The Bard and it came right up.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. Or what I'll do is bring them up as rated episodes because I'm pretty sure it's near the bottom. Not Lady Anne. I mean, there's nothing particularly wrong with this one. Um, Episodes top rated. What is the top rated? So yeah, all this IMDb talk, I never look. Eye of the Beholder is the top rated Twilight Zone episode. I don't. I like that one. I would definitely not say it's my favorite, but whatever. Let's look at the bottom of the barrel. What's the bottom of the barrel? No, because we were doing Space 1999 for what's on the bottom of the barrel is like a major point of conversation because some of those can be quite not good.
Can you do can you do a reverse sort? I see top rated. I don't see worst rated.
Well, I just have to go to the bottom of the list, right?
Oh.
So the worst Twilight Zones. Oh, the Bard is actually at the bottom of the list. It is the lowest rated IMDb episode of the Twilight Zone.
I mean, that kind of makes that a perfect one to end on for the season.
Right. Cavender is coming ended last season, right? No, actually, no. There was one episode after Cavender, excuse me. Mighty Casey was near. There's always a crappy one. Oh, Horace Ford, we just did that. That's very low rated, which that wasn't the worst. I Dream of Jeannie was pretty crap.
Lady Anne is 96, so it's sort of, I guess, two-thirds of the way down, right? If there's
Yeah, it's kind of
156 total.
middling. It's like you can certainly watch it. There's good episodes under it, and above it. So Nervous Man, a $4 Room is under it. That was a good one. Big Tall Wish was pretty good. There's plenty of good episodes under it. 60 Millimeter Shrine, that's a good one under it. Yeah.
I feel like Nightmare at 20,000 Feet gets it because of Shatner's performance, you know? I
And it was
mean,
redone for the movie.
mm, that's really high up there. I guess that's the one that people think of. Ooh,
Yeah,
Living
that's
Doll.
number two.
I'm not on board for Living Doll episodes.
Oh, okay. See, Andrew comes on for those, and he's usually terrified by them because he doesn't like that. So he came
They
on
are
for After
terrifying.
Hours and The
Yeah.
Dummy, and he hates that
Mhm.
sort of thing. That terrifies him. He had
Me
a
too.
story
Oh,
about
look.
him.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, he had a story about getting like scarred at Madame Tussauds Wax Museum as a kid for
Oh,
when we
I'm
did
I'm sure. I
the
would
new
never have had to
exhibit.
be in person with one to be scarred. I'm in person. I was scarred by seeing Child's Play, and it
Mm.
just sort of went down. And ventriloquist dummies are the worst, actually. So, but I was going to say, Obsolete Man is number 10. So I got a top 10 in there.
Yeah. Can you handle Cookie?
What do you mean?
This guy, he's a puppet. He's like a ventriloquist.
Oh, I'm not looking. Are you showing me something?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I have the Cookie Monster here.
Oh, that's different. A Muppet is very different. Tiffel and Ollie, that's different. But like Charlie McCarthy,
Hmm. I I
but
I'm, I misused the Cookie Monster yesterday, where someone was starting to tell a story at work, and it started with somebody was trying to steal cookies, and it turned into kind of a disturbing story, right? Like not a happy story. I'm sitting there la 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 with the Cookie Monster because I just heard something about stealing cookies. So I was like,
was it
"Gee,
like a food addiction story that was really sad?
no, he worked at like a no, what do they call it? A nonprofit home or whatever. So, and it turned
Hmm.
out to be like not a story where maybe I felt good about flashing the Cookie Monster around, but it's right here. It's easy. It's so easy to grab.
He lightens every moment.
Everybody loves a Cookie Monster, I think. I don't
I think
know.
so.
Oh, I was going to ask, do you have the prologue anywhere you can see it?
No, but I can pull that up because I remember
Okay.
last time you said that you don't have that written
Yeah,
down.
I've been making the guests pull it up now just because Zoom sometimes works and sometimes doesn't. And when it doesn't work, I get that minute of waffling that I have to go back and edit. And I'm lazy. I don't want to go back and edit things if I don't have to. So
I'll try to be pitch perfect. Let's see, production notes. Isn't it on Wikipedia? Oh,
it's
is
on
it?
Wiki. That's where I get them from.
Opening
Yeah.
narration. That's a long one.
It is a
Mm,
long one. Sorry. Yeah. Prepare. Get a glass of water, I guess.
I have a glass of water. Okay, one sec. I have a sip of water.
There you go. Although you're not doing it yet. Although I guess we will get into the show because I actually have in an hour and 22 minutes, I have a live chat for Twilight Zone starting. So
Oh,
I
what
do
a
a couple.
busy morning.
Yeah, yeah. Because after that, I have nothing to do, so I can stroll off into the heat and go to a hot spring or something, get a
Oh,
pizza,
wait, are
that
you
sort
on
of thing.
summer vacation? Is there
No,
a
no,
summer vacation?
Monday's just my day off. Monday is
Oh,
my day off.
uh,
I get the
okay.
opposite of summer vacation. This week is
Uh,
normal, and then the 2 weeks after that are 6 day weeks, 2 6 day weeks. We're
uh,
technically we do get the days later in the month, like we have a 4 day weekend, but it still kind of eats it, you know.
mhm. That's rough.
It tends to
Okay,
blast
I'm
past though. You know, you're just busy with kids running around all day. Someone always leaves like some horrible kid all day, every day for, 2 weeks.
ouch. I'm ready when you are.
Okay. I'll leave 5 seconds for a pause just so I can spot it and for the edit, and then we will get into it. Hello, welcome to Time Enough Podcast. It's where we board all of the ocean liners of the Twilight Zone and beyond. This is Matt here as always. Coming back is Dorian. Hello.
Ahoy.
Ahoy,
Ahoy,
yeah.
ahoy.
That's what I should have said. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's what you said when you sent me the confirm for this recording. And it didn't it only now just clicked. I was like, oh
Oh.
boy, okay, that's a fun way to say hello. Why not?
I've been waiting so long for this episode, like it's been so long. So I'm ready to disembark.
To say ahoy. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the passage on the Lady Anne. I have a lot of trivia, but I'm still like nervous having you on this episode with my trivia. I'm like, I'm sure I missed something with this much classic Hollywood hanging around.
I have a lot of notes and question. I have a whole question section for us to discuss. So
Okay,
I'm
that's
ready.
cool. That's
Yeah.
cool. But yeah, I will get into the trivia then, but you are welcome to amend or something because like I said, I wrote a book here, but I feel like I probably missed something. Yes, of course I got the Batman reference, but original air date was May 9th, 1963. The episode is based on the short story Song for a Lady by Charles Beaumont. He is also credited with the script, but it is like it is likely this was done by a ghostwriter such as Jerry Soule, as Beaumont's health had greatly deteriorated by this point. Lamont Johnson returns to direct. He had helmed 7 episodes back in season 3, but this is his only season 4 episode and his last episode for The Twilight Zone. Lee Phillips was Alan Ransom. He had made a name on Broadway acting in Peyton Place. He'd go on to direct the series based on that, as well as the Dick Van Dyke Show. We will also see his acting again in The Zone with season 5's Queen of the Nile. Eileen Ransom was played by Joyce Van Patten. She was all over television, including the original cast of As the World Turns. She'd later turn up in films like The Bad News Bears, St. Elmo's Fire, and Grown Ups from 2010. Wilfred Hyde White played Tobias Toby Mackenzie. He appeared in scores of British and Hollywood films from the 1930s to the 1980s and usually showed up as the snooty upper class twit. He also did a lot of stage work and was nominated for 2 Tonys. We got a lot of nominated, never a winner people in this episode,
Mm-hmm.
which I don't know if
Mm-hmm.
that's, yeah. Gladys Cooper was Millicent Millie Mackenzie. She had pretty much gotten on in filmmaking right from its inception and kept working for decades. So I'll just list her 3 Oscar nominations, which were Now Voyager, The Song of Bernadette, and My Fair Lady. Ian Burgess was played by Cecil Kellaway, a prolific character actor. He also entered that zone of Oscar nominations with no wins. Through the Luck of the Irish and Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. Sidney Poitier's coming to dinner. That's who's coming to dinner.
No, he was the Monsignor in that. I mean, as you know, but that I like that because that's almost 20 years apart. I have so much to say about Cecil, so I'll just like bite my tongue now.
Right on. Alan Napier was Captain Prothero. He's Alfred from Batman 66. Do you need more than that? Maybe you need more than that. You want to add anything? I'm just like, he's Alfred. Good. Finished. I'm finished with Alfred. That's fine. Okay. And then 2 weeks ago we had Pat Hingle. So we had Commissioner Gordon. Now we've had Alfred. Yeah. We're
Nice.
different Batman, of course, but yeah. Please go ahead and give us that narration.
All right. Okay. Portrait of a honeymoon couple getting ready for a journey, with a difference. These newlyweds have been married for 6 years, and they're not taking this honeymoon to start their life, but rather to save it. Or so Eileen Ransom thinks. He doesn't know why she insisted on a ship for this voyage, except that it would give them some time, and she'd never been on one before. Certainly never one like the Lady Anne. The tickets read New York to Southampton, but this old liner is going somewhere else. Its destination, the Twilight Zone.
So, have you ever gone on a cruise?
Yes, I went on a cruise with my parents to Bermuda when I was in middle school, but that's the only time. And I don't remember much. I stayed in the cabin a lot because I was anxious, like an anxious child. So it wasn't a full experience. So I'm looking forward to doing it again someday.
Yeah, 13 seems like the wrong time to go on a cruise, you know?
Yeah, especially like with your parents. Like,
Yeah, no,
but
I actually have not been on a cruise. I've been on boats a lot. One summer my job was taking kids out on boats to look for whales, but that was a schooner, so much smaller. You get seasick on that.
I've been on whale watches now that you mention it, and I did get seasick on that. They had a big old bucket for everyone, and it was a lot better after. On the way back, it's a lot easier, but we
Yeah,
did see some whales. That was a lot of fun.
I learned that if I was on deck, I couldn't get seasick, but if I went under deck, like I would very quickly start to feel nauseous. But if I see the horizon line, I was good to go. So,
Mm-hmm.
the chop. The only time we didn't see whales, it was super choppy, and there was myself and the 3 kids who also weren't sick on the bow of the ship, just like because it was like a 3-hour roller coaster. But hey, that's I mean, this is a bigger ship. I guess that doesn't happen quite as much. I've been on a
Yeah.
ferry going from Algeciras to Tangier. Uh, at Disney Sea, we had drinks in the Teddy Roosevelt Lounge, but I think that's a fake ship, so it doesn't count. But yeah, top attraction at Disney Sea, of course, if you end up there. Um, do you have like a fascination with the old boats or anything though, or is it the old actors that are getting you here?
Okay, the star power, which I know like these days you look at this and you don't think star power, but seriously, like Gladys Cooper was like a theater and film legend. And Cecil Kellaway, I love, he's one of my favorite people. So it is possible that he has swayed my vote a bit, but I love a couple things about this. I sort of see the ship as the main character and everything else is like secondary. Like I know we're focusing on the ransoms, this like bickering couple, and we just start fighting right off the bat too, right? As soon as they get to the travel agency, they're patronizing and resentment, and they do a really good job of establishing that they are not doing great. But I love a story where somebody says, whatever you do, don't do that thing. And then the person they're talking to is like, I'm totally doing that thing. Like that really sets up drama really well when you have like somebody who's really stubborn And eventually, like, it's easy to identify. That's such a universal thing. Either you're the one who's done the dumb thing before, or you're the one trying to convince someone not to do a dumb thing. But I think good drama comes out of a situation with that conflict. So that's a lot of fun. Um, and I like the foregone era versus modernity. That's always a nice theme to see. But I think ultimately it has this sort of perfect touch of the vague supernatural, and that is just it hits all the right notes for me. So for some reason, like this mysterious ship and all these poor suckers, like I don't know, I just love this episode for some reason. Even though we spend a lot of time following this dumb couple, I love the ambiance of that ship. It's just kind of spooky and trippy and yeah.
I know the way you're describing this. This is not the supernatural part you're describing, which I do like can go from 0 to 100, where you want to put it on the supernatural scale. But I
I thought it
was
was a
thinking,
0 to 10 scale. Has it expanded to 100 with the hour
oh
long
no,
episode?
the tripometer goes to 5. I'm talking more about like your speedometer on your car.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
It's
sorry.
kind of, but
When
it's
you have
subtle.
rating systems, I guess you can't start making other metaphors.
Yeah, it's a subtle one, but it's still like, anyway.
But I was gonna say
Where
the
do
way
we?
you're describing it, I was like, is this kind of like a geriatric dry run for the Love Boat? You know, because you always have like the new people on the crew as the the couple with troubles and well the regulars in this case would be the old people, but the Love Boat of course brings back 20 years past their prime character actors a lot. So I was
Oh
just
well,
like,
beyond that, it's a star-studded event. I wrote the Love Boat down in my notes with like a silly like drawing next to it. So yes, I thought of that joke as well.
okay, good, good, good. No, I was thinking it was like a real metaphor though, like how like that particular kind of story kind of does appeal to people. Here being played very much for drama. I mean, it's not a very funny episode, but then you have, the Love Boat and Fantasy Island, like in the 70s, they just doubled down on that vibe, Or
Hmm.
the I guess it's having a curated environment. I mean, that's basically what a cruise ship is, or a theme park, or it's a
Yeah.
curated environment. There's not supposed to be any um, outside influence. We went to Moomin Valley last weekend, which is a small theme park based on the Moomin franchise, which is like the Finnish Winnie the Pooh, basically. But just
Oh.
as a theme park dork when we were there, because it's not that big, it's well themed, right? It doesn't have like rides per se, because the whole thing's like grooving with your friends and nature and stuff. But I was there and I'm like, it's like, oh, the sight lines here are good. You can't not see outside the park from anywhere inside the park. And then when I looked on Google Maps, I was like, oh wow, this place is almost like completely surrounded by a golf course. I never picked up on that. So, just as like, I mean, you won't have a golf course outside the Lady Anne, of course, but I was just like, thinking about curated environments a lot.
So you mentioned that it's based on a short story, and the short story has like two interesting things that are different. The first is that Alan and Eileen in the short story are on their first honeymoon, not their second. So they took when they made this episode, they added fighting as sort of a dramatic element, whereas in the first one, everyone's happy, and it really is more of a love boat. And then the other thing is that in the story, the ship goes down in flames. It like explodes after they drop them off and it leaves them adrift, it says, which I don't think ensures survival, but I guess we can assume that they were. I don't know, but this one is a lot different. We start with more fighting, but then at the end they're like, your lifeboat's ready, you've got flares, we've radioed ahead, don't worry, like you'll be picked up, whereas in the short story it sounds like they just bumped them off and that's the end
Good
of
luck,
the story.
folks.
Yeah, like at
Well,
least you
hopefully
won't
an
be dead.
exploding ship catches somebody's attention.
Oh, I didn't think of that. Maybe that's the flare. Okay, well that makes
There's a
sense.
flare. I was also
And
isn't in this episode, it's also their first honeymoon. They just didn't go on one for 6 years, is the impression I got.
oh, I thought it was. I didn't think about it that way.
Actually,
Okay.
but now I'm thinking about at least the wiki description, which says there was a bit that I just noticed on there. It's like, dun, 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 Uh, the two had not. She later tells another passenger, due to Alan's unwavering devotion to his career, the two of them have not been sexually intimate since their honeymoon 6 years before. Okay, so the wiki one would
Oh,
suggest this is their second. So that was just my impression watching the episode, perhaps.
Whoa, I missed that whole
I kind of missed
sexually
that too.
inactive part. Whoa, that's really detailed.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. Well, a 1963 episode does not lay that one on the table, pun not
Uh-uh.
intended. But yeah, like I didn't get necessarily that impression, but maybe it was subtle. I don't know.
I
That's
mean,
where
there's
looking at a
so much,
wiki description, that's not like the gospel truth. So someone that might
yeah,
be someone else's inflection of what happened.
I don't know. That explains the bitterness, I guess. I mean, that adds a new level to, whew, yeah, it's hard to watch that fighting because it's really realistic. Like that kind of just really vicious, makes me uncomfortable kind of fighting. Like they do a good job of that, I think for sure.
Yeah, yeah, I think you're looking at my notes. I was like, it's not too far behind Virginia Woolf, not up to that speed, but that's another level. But this is a nice
Yeah.
level.
It's true. It's true. Especially in contrast once they get to the boat and like the Mackenzies are there. And I guess we can talk about, so the first scene is the travel agency, which one of my questions is like, who else is in on this? Like the travel agent knows about all the supernatural voyages. Like it's interesting that in order to for the script to make sure that they started to try to deter them immediately, they had to let the travel agent in on it. As opposed to, yeah, we can book that. It's an old liner. Not many people use it. And then once they got to the boat, they would see the people and then they'd be convinced to not be there. But like right off the bat, they're like, don't do this then. And it starts with the travel agent.
That's where I was almost wondering if this wasn't supernatural at all, and this actually was a bunch of old people who basically commandeered an old boat to go out in glory. Because we don't know
So
what
it's like
happens
a
to the boat.
suicide ship.
Yeah, because that's kind of how everyone on the boat acts. Like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be reunited with my recently deceased wife soon. That's why they want these young people to get off the damn boat because they've consigned themselves to their own fate. Because when the episode started, I already had the conceit like this is a death ship, right? But I was
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, maybe the Lady Anne sets course every week, and just seeing young people on there is jarring because oh no, young people have already died. Like the Beetlejuice thing. They've already gone off a bridge and died, and now they're on the Lady Anne. But I was thinking actually this could just be a bunch of like really, some old people really obsessed with cruise ships and deciding to go out in a blaze of glory and at age 80.
Well, it's and this ship specifically, because that's another thing. It seems like everyone who's on the boat now has a connection to it. So the Mackenzies spent their honeymoon there, and Burgess also was there and spent time with his wife there. So it seems like in order to everyone else, in order to be part of that private party, has already been on the boat. And it seems like the Ransoms, this is their first time, and that's another thing that sets them apart.
They're the young interlopers. I when I was in university, a girlfriend and I had just taken a swing dance class, and I remember we were in Atlanta. We were like, "Let's go to this hotel. They have swing dancing." And basically, a bunch of old people told us to go away. And now I'm like wondering if they all like, drank the cyanide Kool-Aid and ended it all with to Glenn Miller.
Really hurtful. Like you shouldn't have been turned. That's ageism. That's what we would say
It was
now.
it was ageism, but yeah, because we gotten like mildly dressed up, as dressed up as like 19-year-olds can manage, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, go away! What are you doing here? So that
That's
was
so rude.
it was kind of rude when you think about it. I mean, we just learned to
Yeah.
do the dancing properly. Can't do it now. I've forgotten my swing dancing steps now. Last time I tried it, I tossed my boss into a wall. So, but yeah, but that I was like I came in thinking this was going to be a very supernatural episode and came out thinking maybe it's not. I mean, it could just be a totally weird scheme of people, ending it all Hunter S. Thompson style. What did he do? He ended in and asked him his remains to be blasted off in a rocket or something. I mean, not a space
Yeah.
rocket, just a large firecracker.
Yeah, I think some of the Star Trek cast has their ashes in space too. So similar. But I mean, that totally takes my argument sideways. Like, I don't know. I guess that's a possibility, but I like the supernatural ship idea. Like that seemed they were really vague about it. And that was in your notes. Like, why don't they just explain it to them? It's almost like they couldn't explain it. And one of the other questions I had was like, does the Lady Anne itself have some sort of insidious power or control over people? Because I think the flaw in the episode is that when Alan doesn't know where Eileen is, and then Burgess gets drunk and he talks about how modern life is so fast, like in 2 minutes, suddenly Alan goes from ambitious to like return to love. Like it's too sudden, and they spend so much time setting up that they're a dysfunctional couple, that little epiphany there is not very believable. But if the ship is doing something to him, and like there's something, insidious is a negative word, like a demonic or like an evil kind of manipulation. But if it's like a love version somehow, like does the ship have an influence on
Like
people?
the
Is there
ship is an aphrodisiac.
I guess that's true. I mean, it does seem to bring back all these great memories for everyone. But I just wondered if that is another supernatural element that doesn't really get talked about. But are they all under this sort of enchantment and the memories that they have? And is that the thing that influences Alan to change and to turn his attention back to Eileen? Is it the ship itself? And that would be another supernatural element. That was just something I was thinking.
Or again, it could just be the curate. One, I go with the supernatural thing. I'm not trying to dissuade you from doing that because that's clearly a way to
Mm-hmm.
take this episode. I would just like, I came in really wanting to dive into that and kind of on my end being like, I'm not so sure, but a curate environment. I mean, a really nice cruise ship can have a certain vibe that can make people happier. Again, unless except for small children, people usually don't seem too unhappy at a Disney park.
Yeah, but did you see their cabin? It's gaudy as all get out. I was trying to figure out what I was thinking Gilded Age, but actually Gilded Age is post Civil War to 1900. So if the Mackenzies were married in 1910 and Art Nouveau is 1890 to 1910, then it's probably like Art Nouveau-ish is what they were going for. But I feel like they just threw the entire prop room in there because it's really just so cluttered and like ugh. So yeah, that cabin is definitely a unique experience for sure.
I did love the cabin. What would they say? What every cabin on the ship is like that? Okay, that's something where it starts to sound a little supernatural. Every cabin is like ridiculously gaudy and expensive. So
Well, if it didn't upgrade, they didn't spend money changing it. The dining room is sort of the other set that we see a lot of, and that has a lot of. It looks like an old smoking lounge, but it's got the old, clock and the bar, and it looks a little bit less cluttered, but it does have that same sort of, that kind of part of the ship where everyone's socializing like that did still have an old fashioned feel and look to it. So it seemed like that was like the Lady Anne's deal, was it was sort of stuck in time.
right. That's why I was having such a wonderful time at the again curated environment of the Teddy Roosevelt Lounge at Disney Sea because it had just had that look. So it's like, yes, please, and then give me a Manhattan, even if it's a little too expensive. Let's do it that way. I'm into that. But
They
yeah.
tried to bribe them. They bribed them with a lot of money. Like, somebody's trying to bribe you that hard, like just not even a second guess there. She's like, nope, nope, double it, triple it. And then Alan came in with like the really exorbitant price and they almost did it, right? But he's like, no, never mind. We're going to stay. I love how Alan was just sticking to his guns about this decision because he'd made a promise, but not really because he wanted to do it. Remember, she's like, well, you can stop if you want to. And he's like, no, I made a promise, but like really resentfully. It's like, wow, what a promise.
I mean
So
that with that offer, what was it, $10,000 in 1963? I mean, you could go on a pretty amazing trip with that.
yeah,
It looked
but
like
I
he had
guess
it in his
that was
pocket.
like on one hand that was the way to reach Alan, but on the other hand, like it seems like money is the thing they had. Like that was not the thing that was the most precious. So that's why she refused that offer because she'd had enough of money.
That makes this, if it's not supernatural, well, even if it is, that makes them into a bunch of vindictive old people then, because apparently they went off to die on the ship with lined pockets, giving none of it to their family or anything. It's all gonna
Well,
go
they threw
down with a drink.
the Millie threw her love letters overboard, remember? She's like, I don't need them anymore. Like that was, there could have been some spicy stuff in there.
True, true. I mean, that's relatively personal. I mean, I guess 100 years down the line, you're a famous person. Someone finds your love letters. That's a big fine. But Millie's love letters, it'd be perfectly symbolic to toss them over. It's probably fine. But
Yeah.
yeah, rolling off to sea with a bank in your pockets and you're going down or flowing into the ether or wherever you're going. I mean, it's very unclear where the ship is going if it is supernatural. So
It's unclear. Well, if it's supernatural, I think we know it's an afterlife of some sort. But my question I have is where exactly did they get dropped off? Because this was not all of the days had passed. So are they in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean? Like somewhere, wherever this portal port slash portal is that their destination is. It's really vague as to where. Is it right outside of Southampton? Like they almost made it, but then they kicked them off because like I like to imagine that they're just in the middle of it, like 7 days in, because they're really the captain comes in, is like, all right, time to go, but they don't expressly say how many days have passed that we've been with them. It's just like we see a couple scenes and then time to go.
Yeah,
So
I
it's
just assumed they're about on the spot the Titanic went down. Maybe some icebergs around. I don't know.
Well, it would be too cold for them. So they did say it was cold, when they lowered them down. But yeah. So that was another thought, was where exactly are they? And they just all look so forlorn. Oh, I also wondered if the word passage was had dual meaning, because the short story is Song for a Lady. The episode is Passage. So it's passage because it's a voyage, but it's also about the passage of time. So I thought it was like a two-way
Passage of these old
passage.
people into death.
He seemed so calm and serene about it. So I'm assuming it wasn't a big fire explosion, that it was just, although how did they hear about it? Do you think, like, how did they all know to go?
The people on the ship?
Yeah, how did they all know about this private party?
Well, they'd been coming on the ship apparently for decades. Like this is some cruise ship that have you read news articles recently? I've seen a few because it's had problems too with the endless cruise where people just buy an apartment on the cruise ship and just that's what they do now.
I've heard that's a thing, but I haven't heard much about what that's actually like.
But yeah, I started thinking about that a little bit just because these people, it seems like they yearly do this cruise and no one new has been coming on this ship. So it's like, what
Okay.
company is running this thing, you know? It's almost like it feels like the old people own the ship, right? Which maybe they
That's
do.
a
Maybe they bought it.
that's a thought. But then the travel agent wouldn't have relented to let them go on it.
Well, I'm
You
guessing
know,
somehow the the tickets for that got, thrown in the wrong drawer and ended up in that travel agent's drawer, which is why he's confused and saying maybe you shouldn't do it. I didn't feel like he knew like 100% what was going on with this, you know?
Oh, I thought he did. I thought he did for sure.
Mm-mm.
It's an antique, it's a relic, it's our slowest, oldest boat. Like, he wouldn't have had that timetable there if it truly was like an off the menu voyage. So I
Yeah.
think he knew, but it doesn't make sense why he does, except for my script theory, which is that we had to establish immediately that they were going to be deterred from doing it so they could push back more and more.
I mean, my note is travel agents always have at least one supernatural ticket on them, but that's also when I thought this episode was going to be more overtly supernatural, which it, was not. But that, I mean, that could be cool. Yeah, dude, take the money, get on a steampunk airship. That would be cool. So, yeah, I
I
don't know.
like that sneaky supernatural. Like that's what I like so much about it.
Yeah, no, the subtle thing is kind of cool sometimes. So I'm not calling that out as a flaw, just different from my expectation is, I guess, what I'm getting at.
I
Oh,
want
here's a
Go ahead.
line. Just I wrote down this line. I was like, how did this make it to prime time in 1963? I went back to check. Looks like we're in time for the orgy as a joke. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
that would seem racy on network TV now.
What's the most disturbing? This was such a quick line, and I got really stuck on it. Was that when Eileen disappears, Alan finds her in the cabin, and she's wearing Mrs. Mackenzie's nightgown. She is wearing a 50-year-old negligee from this stranger lady she just met on the boat from her honeymoon. And she's like, look at this great outfit. He's like, oh, it's beautiful. And so are you. I'm like, what? You were wearing a 50-year-old negligee from this stranger you just met.
So
Like,
what do you
no.
think happened to Eileen while she was disappeared?
Yeah, good question. They follow Alan and his epiphany. They don't follow her, but like something weird does kind of seem to happen. Like they suddenly that's the hardest sell of the episode, is that yeah, I guess she was always more on the love side, but his sudden turn is the flaw of the episode. It's just it happens too abruptly, and then he throws his watch out the window. Like, I get it, but again, unless the ship itself has mind controlled him, in which case that's more believable. That would be an element that I would support.
Maybe it's like a nicer version of the Shining thing.
Here you go.
have a picture
So
of.
did you know that Housey Housey is UK bingo?
Oh,
Remember the sign?
yeah, I wrote that down. I wrote Halsey Halsey must be a real old person's game. Okay.
That's
Uh,
probably true too. It's slightly different in the card itself and in the calling style, but it's essentially bingo for the UK.
okay, got it. Um, I guess you have a few notes on the actors and stuff if you want to hit a few of those points before I start asking questions and such.
Okay. Well, you mentioned Lee Phillips already, but just another to emphasize that he ends up having more directing credits than acting credits. Joyce Van Patten is 90 years old this year, so good for her. She's our remaining cast member. Okay, Cecil Kellaway. I have to talk about him. I love Cecil Kellaway so much. He was born in Cape Town, South Africa. He went to Australia and did a lot of theater and film there before he got to Hollywood in the late 30s. And like you mentioned his Oscar nominations already. If you look at his IMDb list, like there are so many familiar films in here. Like it's hard to just pick out a few things, but I would say that The Post and Always Rings Twice. He plays, Nick, the unsuspecting husband that John Garfield and Lana Turner are, fixing to fix. In Harvey, he plays the like super wistful Dr. Chumley, who's the head of the sanatorium. A personal favorite, a little bit more obscure, Mrs. Parkington from 1944. That's a Greer Garson Walter Pidgeon film. He plays Edward VII, Prince of Wales, and he's super charming. He has this distinctive voice. He has this signature gentle manner through all of his roles, and I just think he is such a delight. And did you mention? I can't remember. He did do one other Twilight Zone. He did Elegy. He was the character of Jeremy, and that was back in season 1, episode 20. So
I did
I don't
not
know.
catch that. No, no. With him and Gladys Cooper, it's just like I look at the list. I'm like, yeah, let's just list the noms.
Mm-hmm.
This is
Oh,
too
I
much to
know.
sift through.
It's a delightful, like, it's always delightful to see him in things, and he pops up all the time. He worked basically till the end of his life, so he's got another decade or so after this episode. And he did television as well as film, so just like a delightful presence in anything, I think. So that's that's another reason why I love this episode. Let's see, who else do I have? Cyril. What's the name of the Cyril guy? I know him mainly from Night of the Iguana. So, do I have this pulled up? Is that Alfred? No, the
That's
officer, Cyril
Captain. Yeah,
Delafonte.
once I got to characters with no names, I said, I've already done 5 actors or written 5 paragraphs. I think we're gonna wrap it up for today.
That's
So,
fair.
but
That's fair.
if because yeah, this is just so chock full. Again, that's where I started thinking of Love Boat again. It's like, oh, this is where some actors
Hmm.
get to have their sunset hurrah, you know?
Hmm. Well, and that's a trivia on IMDb is that this was the first episode that did a credit scroll because of the star power in it. So that, otherwise it was like still frames I'm paraphrasing awkwardly, like a 2 sentence trivia bite. But, instead of the usual ending of these people were in it for the Twilight Zone, this was the first time there was enough to list them in a credit scroll. So I have 2 movie recommendations. So this is kind of another along the line of the star power thing, because this is going to get into more people. But 2 movie recommendations. If you like this episode, if you like this whole like boat to the underworld sort of situation, the first film is from 1944 and it's called Between Two Worlds. The summary is passengers on an ocean liner can't recall how they got on board or where they're going yet, but oddly enough, it soon becomes apparent that they all have something in common. And that's death. They come to that realization at different stages, but this is a movie that has John Garfield, Paul Henreid, Sidney Greenstreet, Eleanor Parker, Edmund Gwynn. I'll just go with the top 5, although Edmund Gwynn is actually Cecil Kellaway's cousin. Fun fact. And Between Two Worlds is actually a remake then of Outward Bound from 1930. I'd say the headliners on this one are Leslie Howard and Douglas Fairbanks Jr., but if you're familiar with 1930, you'll see people like Beryl Mercer and Alison Skipworth and Walter Kingsford and other familiar people of the time. So 2 recommendations. I love Between Two Worlds. I haven't seen Outward Bound yet, but this episode was so similar to those 2 films that I wanted to mention that as a sort of a follow-up. If you're into the supernatural ship business, then you can go watch those and prolong the experience.
Yeah, I guess even in the Twilight Zone, in season 1 we had Judgment Night with that supernatural ship, which was a lot darker, of course. This is a love boat, whereas that was a Ship of Despair and Nazi submarine death. Oh, not German submarine death. He was. I don't remember if they pointed at him as. I just did Das Boot, where it was clear that the guys in the submarine were not necessarily Nazis. But anyway, yeah, Judgment Night. But I don't think this is an episode where the Twilight Zone is doing the same thing, although it is doing like a slightly less high octane thing. Not in terms of
Mhm.
actors, but in terms of just how weird it is, which I guess we'll get
Yeah,
to later. It does feel like they're pulling their punch a little bit as far as the weirdness in this one, which
yeah.
maybe that's to spotlight the actors more because we have so many of them. But
Maybe that explains why they sort of drag it out and everyone's being super vague, and it's either that or they're not allowed to tell them. Like with the Between Two Worlds film, it almost seems like that is a really clear part of that story, is that you have to come to the conclusion yourself. You have to figure it out. Nobody can tell you where you are, what's happened. So it's almost like a secret until you catch on. So I guess having seen that and then seeing this episode makes me think that that's a component to this, but I'm just like, you know, intertextuality it, so that's, yeah, I'm reading something into it, bringing something in.
I
But
mean, for another podcast, I just did Howl's Moving Castle, where the lady in House Sophie is transformed from 18 to 80 as a curse, and part of the curse is that she can't tell people about the curse. So
right, right. I love that. I love that film.
so that who knows, maybe that it could be kind of a similar vibe here, where that was the thing where I was like, if they have gone to all this trouble to arrange their own weird death,
Hmm.
then it seems like they should be able to just be like, hey, this boat's not coming back. You don't want to get on it, you know?
Right,
That
right.
hard to
And
say
then,
that.
and then there's a part where when the captain comes in finally toward the end before they get kicked off, and Burgess says they don't know yet. And then later they're like, well, if Toby had done what he was supposed to do. So actually that's a contradiction from what I was thinking. Like that specifically said that, somebody could have told them, and that almost like it was someone's obligation to, but they didn't want to do it, or like couldn't bring themselves to tell them, which is, it just makes it all the more confusing. And that's how they get escorted out at gunpoint, was because, give them a break, they don't know. But
Damn cagey old people.
yeah, everybody else is real somber. Then the gun comes out, and then they're on the boat, like then they're on the little boat, and everyone's like waving, sadly pulling away into the fog. And then the postscript sort of was that they looked into the newspaper, and when the ransoms were rescued and they got back to land, they looked for any information about the Lady Anne disappearing, and there wasn't. So we had that sort of closure, I suppose. But then I guess that makes them question everything about the experience, right? I mean, they know they were there, but somehow there's no information about this boat that they knew about at the travel agency, but now it's just a figment of everyone's imagination.
Well, it's a better port, a place called the Twilight Zone. Although I don't know, is that really the best port to end up in? Some episodes,
Depends.
it's certainly not. I mean, what was it last week? Dude gets trapped alone on a planet. Well, he chose to get trapped alone on a planet, but well, that was a
They're
different.
choosing to go on this boat. They seem
Right.
really at ease about it, and they seem really kind of
They're
happy. It's like
forcing
they'll,
themselves on this boat.
yeah,
They
it's
did
like
pay though.
they're the nostalgia, somehow nostalgia equals like serenity. There is it going to make them young again? Is it going to mean that they never have to leave the boat? Like they don't really delve into why they're so calm and relaxed about all this, except that it just seems like it's their time to them.
Yeah, yeah,
But
for the
yeah,
older people. But the ransoms, I
yeah.
mean, in a year, I don't know. I don't know if this is actually going to solve their situation as a
No, your
couple.
notes said that you didn't believe it, and I totally see what you're saying. Like that's, it seems like I mean, they call those things like shipboard romances, right? Like when you're in a different place and time, then things seem simpler, and then when you get back to the routine, then it's all down. Well, he's lost his watch because he threw that overboard, but he could easily get another one. But I don't know, maybe the you're supposed to be left with the thought that this experience has transformed them. But I don't know if seeing everyone else on a ship die and disappear, or disappear and then die, is gonna, bring the romance out. I don't know. It's but I like how unsettling it is. That's why I like it so much.
Well, let's throw some of the questions on this. Who in this episode went into or through the Twilight Zone?
I think everyone but the ransoms did.
Okay, actually, well, that is what the closing says. So that sounds like the correct Rod Serling interpretation. I guess I was thinking of the story where only the ransoms do, because everyone on the boat knows what they're in for and doing it intentionally.
Well, the ransoms are the only ones that are around to remember it, or to they're the only witnesses that are left. So that's a good point.
Yeah. But no, I guess just because of what you said, that does fit the closing narration. So you may be right. But yeah, I have to go with my gut answer, which is nah, the ransoms went through a Twilight Zone. Everyone else was doing a intentional action. Because I think part of, for me at least, going through a Twilight Zone is either making a non-intentional action or making a really rash, bad decision. Where all the old people here seem to have made a relatively mannered decision. None of them are like, "Oh my God, what are we doing here?" You know?
Well, the ransoms made a deliberate decision over and over and over to make this bad choice.
Right.
So they really stuck by their guns on this one. They were going to be doomed no matter what.
So do they? I'll ask about everyone since you said, but let's start with the ransoms because that's two people to think about. Do they deserve their experience?
Yes, I mean they made that happen. Like they did that to themselves. They didn't know what they were doing, but they definitely were committed to having that experience. So yes, 100%. They were in for whatever they got.
I mean, in the end, they did have a romantic cruise, so they it was it was a weird one, but the
Yeah.
intended effect was success. It was a success,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
So
Goal accomplished.
how about all the dying Hollywood on the boat? It does seem like an
Don't call
intentional
them dying
choice.
Hollywood.
Well,
They lived
1963 they were.
some of them perhaps. Another thing back to the short story, the both of the Burgesses are alive in the short story. So I thought that was an interesting choice to make him a widower, versus having the Mackenzies as like the primary. Really, I mean, we saw a bunch of people when that fire drill came out. We saw everybody standing there on the deck. We really only got to know the Mackenzies and Burgess, don't you think?
Yeah, see, that's where I really started to think this wasn't supernatural at all. When it's like, oh, my wife had a ticket, but she died shortly before this. Because I feel like with supernatural, that doesn't matter.
He said that she died shortly before. I got the impression that she died a long time before.
Let me see if I can dive into the thing because I might have misheard that. But I'm not seeing that. So yeah, that's one line I could have misheard, right? So
Well,
but
but
yeah,
either way, we can agree that she's not there.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, she's not there for sure. But I was like, oh, that's like a flaw in their scheme or something. So that
mm.
made me think it is a human scheme as opposed to a weird, a supernatural ship. Although, like you said, maybe the Lady Anne's a character and maybe is just like influencing these people. So
Well, and Burgess is there. It wouldn't work as well if he wasn't a widower when he talks about like how time has changed and how the world has changed, and he feels so out of step. So, it makes him sort of extra poignant and extra lonely that at least the Mackenzies have each other, and you see that they share their own memories, or share memories from their lives together. And but Burgess is the more poignant one because he's alone. Like that was an important change to make.
well,
So
the Mackenzies would be the more inspiring ones, right? Like they literally kind of inspired the ransoms to I don't know, drink up the pheromones of the ship or whatever is going on there. So
yeah,
because they
they
net
make a point of it. They go after them and suggest that they have the tea. So they encourage them. And remember, Eileen's like, well, he's like, why'd you agree to that? And she's like, well, let's just, call a truce because we're stuck with each other. So let's at least, go have a fun time. So they saw that they were having difficulty, or the Gladys Cooper character, Millie did, and it invited them to try to soften them up, I guess. Like that was deliberate act on Millie's part to try to draw them back together.
radio. Let's slam this one on a tripometer. So yes, the tripometer is 0 is not trippy, and 5 is very trippy. You don't have to go to 100 for this.
I mean, I want to say a 4, but it's so subtle. I guess I'll have to say a 3 because I really think that this boat is going to the afterlife, and it doesn't get much trippier than like crossing worlds. But I'll say 3 just because of of the points you raise that, maybe it is just a suicide ship and it's not quite as supernatural. But if that boat is a personality like I think it is, then how about 3.5? I'm going to settle at 3.5.
Okay. No, I was partly because I'm the one coming up with those reasons. I was going on a straight two as far as the trip I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I was kind of expecting more weirdness in this episode than I got. So, I'm late at the end of season 4 of the Twilight Zone. I'm expecting things to get a little weird. And
That's a really good point. I have these much more out of context than you do. You're seeing like this progression, and mine's just a random like one from this season. So that could definitely color your perspective.
we this season, of course, we talk about does it need to be 50 minutes? I would say without the old school Hollywood cast, this would have made a lot of sense as a 25-minute episode.
Yeah, or as I've said a couple times now, like they should have done a better job at showing why Alan changed his mind. Like it was too abrupt and not believable. If the ship was convincing him, or if there was some other thing besides just sad Burgess drunk and talking about the good old days, like I would have believed a little bit more, and that could have strengthened it. That would have been a better use of the time. So they spent a
Yeah.
lot of time on some things and not the other. So they could have done more with the time that they had, but I agree, especially with this cast. Like they were pulling. It's weird that this was not the finale. Like, doesn't it seem like it should have been the season finale because of the star power? Like to attack the Bard on after this one. Like, was that just a scheduling mistake?
Maybe because that's as we looked, it's the lowest rated episode, at least according to IMDb. I am wondering how much star power this was in 1963. Is this like everyone's going to know them in 63?
I think
They know
they
Glass
will
Cooper.
as old Glass Cooper for sure, but like Calloway for sure, they're still active. But I mean, I think that it plays well into the nostalgia theme of the ship. Like they are bygone actors as the ship is this
Yeah, I was
bygone
just wondering
era.
from a marketing perspective, like, in the TV guide that week, is that how hard can you push that and people would respond?
I think it was Cooper. Well, it would be the Ransoms would get their credits. Cooper would, and probably Kellaway. That's my guess, are the people that they would have called out from that episode. I think those are the top four.
Right, right. But yeah, I guess I'm just that's where I'm like maybe thinking no one ever had it in their mind to make it like a blowout finale. It's also, TV this time, they just throw them on. So a finale doesn't necessarily mean much. Because
Yeah, I
we
guess that's true.
because
We
we
didn't
we
we hadn't gotten cliffhangers quite as fine tuned as we did later in the 70s and the 80s, huh?
because we did a podcast on the TV show The Prisoner. When we got to the last episode, we're like, is this the first time in TV a show like properly ended?
Hmm.
Like we couldn't really think of anything before that where the last episode of original Star Trek is famously garbage. So that
Yeah,
that
I
that's
guess.
one where
And
Shatner tries to play a woman when it comes out really weird and cringy.
I do not remember that, but I will need to
He's
revisit.
taking because that's the one where they say Starfleet women can't be Starfleet captains for some reason. So a woman
Mm.
uses the machine to swap her mind with Kirk, so it has William Shatner going around like vamping, like way too hard. So
I'm
there is
sure.
there is some fun factor out of that episode, but it is terrible. Yeah,
Yeah.
turnabout
Mm.
intruder. But
Mm.
yeah, that's where I don't know how much like obviously now was I guess a finale, but it's a really good episode.
Yeah, it is. That's
Although
true.
I've had dissenting opinions on that one, by the way.
Really?
I've had some dissenters on Obsolete Man, so that where it
Of
did
it
rub
not
them the
being a
wrong
good
way.
episode?
Well, just the I guess the religion of it rubs them the wrong way, sort of.
Oh.
So, hmm.
Huh,
But,
all right. I mean, I thought that he wasn't a religious man. I thought that the character Burgess Meredith plays was not a
well,
religious
he was
man.
basing his morality and kind of like standing his resolve on some Bible passages and stuff. So,
Oh,
yeah,
okay. Got it.
no, you don't get any of that here, though. No religion for you in Passage on Lady Anne.
No, just vague life, death, and fog, and what's it called when the noise that the ship makes? Like
The foghorn.
that doesn't sound right, but maybe that is
Probably
it.
because you just said fog.
Yeah, yeah. I think
Mist.
I think I'm out of thoughts and brain power, but
Okay.
this was a great This is a great episode. I'm so glad I got to do it, and it was nice to finally arrive at it. And I don't know, there's just so much to think about. I think
Yeah,
there's.
just to reiterate, a tripometer is not a quality rating. So, did I think the
Mhm.
episode was well? Yeah, it's great to see all these actors in here. It's well done. It's got some good dialogue, blah blah blah. That sort of stuff. So, it's. I mean, is it my favorite? Is it my top 10? Probably not. But
Mhm.
honestly, right in the middle seems about the right spot for it, where we saw it
Yeah.
on that list of ratings. So.
Yep.
You won't have a
Agreed.
bad time with this episode. And unless you just want to do 25 minutes. That is the bugaboo with season 4. Is it's just like when you go watch a Twilight Zone, you're kind of expecting to be out in a half an hour, and these you are not. So
Yeah, and at least a third of this is fighting. So if you get uncomfortable with people fighting, you're not going to like this episode very much because it gets mean. But
but
then
that also means you can't watch Virginia Woolf, and that's a problem.
well, I mean that is next level fighting for sure.
um,
That is so many things. Mm.
well, we'll take this one into whatever port it goes to, I guess, and wrap it up for today. As for this, you can support this podcast and others at Patreon at Podcastius. We do this with a little extra butter. We talk about really good films and really bad films according to IMDb on Films and Filth, Space 1999, on Podcast 1999, and some gamer stuff with Luke Loves Pokemon and the Game Show. I just turned on my tape recorder, but if you do have something coming up you want to throw out there, please do.
No, I'm all mystery today. So all secrets and future revelations.
Okay, I make that the cut spot. That should work out fine. Um, no,
Awesome.
I'll be doing the Bard Wednesday morning, I think, and then I have that busy summer school, but I might have a few hours where I will sit down and start looking at the season 5 list on who gets what. I believe you've already asked for masks, but
Oh, yeah, I forgot all about that. Let me see. If I have, I mean it. I just kind of forgot.
if you just want to beam me an email on any others, but I do remember you specifically saying at some point you wanted masks. So
Was that the Ida Lupino one?
correct.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Okay, I
So
will. I will look at season 5 and send that over.
yeah, let's see if there's any that people have specifically asked for. Look at a list. Nightmare at 20,000 feet. Everybody wants that, but I might get Captain Mike on because he's a pilot. I don't know. Or not.
That's
Uh,
cool. Yeah.
I assume Andrew's going to ask for Living Daw, which you don't
Yeah.
want anyway.
Yeah, please take it. Gross.
Otherwise, I feel like someone actually asked for black leather jackets for some reason, but I don't remember who that was. Oh, did you ask for Owl Creek?
Hold on. I'm still slowly navigating to the
Oh,
season.
okay.
Okay, what episode did you say?
Um, I feel like somebody asked for an occurrence at Owl Creek Bridge, which is the French short film that they just took and made a Twilight Zone episode.
No, that was not me.
Okay, somebody wanted that. Um, but yeah, you don't have to tell me now. So just have a look through, and when you feel like it, send a message, and You're actually the first person I am. I've had people send me lists, but it was like 2 or 3 months, and I was like, do it again. I won't remember what you told me.
Okay, I'll look at that again then. Oh wait, is Spur of the Moment one where she sees like the future version of herself? Yes, that's the weird wedding day one. I like that one a lot too. So
Okay.
okay, I'll look at this list and let you know. Oh, you know
Okay.
what? From Agnes with Love was something we were going to show at the computer museum because it is all about computer tech and a self-aware. Oh look, and there's Glass Cooper again in Night
Oh.
Call. All
Oh,
right,
I missed that. I got Queen of the Nile. Who was in Queen of the Nile? Oh, that was Lee Phillips. Okay.
right. Yeah, that's a good. And that's Anne Blythe, right? Yeah,
Yeah, because
awesome.
the thing is, I do most of my trivia just looking at Wiki, and to look up specific episodes, I have to switch over to IMDb,
Hmm.
which if I think about it, I'll do it. So, but
Hmm.
because like the director, I was like, oh, I remember seeing Lamont Johnson's name a lot, but not recently, and then I looked, oh, it's all season 3, crazy. So
Yeah, and Charles Beaumont and his like neurological disease, that was really dark. Like that's
yeah,
a
he had
trip.
like a real life Twilight Zone episode happen to him, basically.
Yeah, and then died in like his 30s, right? Like
Yeah, he
it,
died in 66 or 67, but he was already basically like non-functional by this point. Like it was early 63, like the early season 4 episodes with his name on it, they're pretty sure he did write, but now we're
mhm.
at the point where he probably did not write them. So
Yeah, but since he
Wiki
wrote the
actually
since he wrote the short story, it was a nice way to kind of give it to him, make
Right,
that
right,
his last
right.
credited.
Because the wiki actually says he wrote it, but I don't think that's right. It says this was the last episode actually written by Charles Beaumont, but I think that means he wrote the story. I don't know. Maybe he did write this one like earlier on, but I sort of like didn't trust the wiki when I read that because I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
we're already at the point where that's not possible. So
maybe it was the short and then like some notes that he took and they kind of cobbled it together. Like that'd be interesting. I wonder if he'll
well, I
ever.
ran into some very wrong wiki because we had David Prowse in a Space 1999 episode, and several places on wiki was like, after this, he was cast as Darth Vader. I was like, that doesn't seem right. And I looked at actual filming dates, and they did the episode where he's a dumb monster like Star Wars filmed January to June, and then the Space 1999 was July. So it's like the wiki's wrong then in several places because he would have done Darth Vader first. They didn't do all of Darth Vader in reshoots, you know. But I'm guessing on wiki it's like, oh, Star Wars 1977, so the Space 1999 episode 76, so Star Wars is next. But yeah, that's a
Got it.
movie. It's shot way ahead of time.
Yeah.
So yeah, as I do trivia, I just have to. I'm getting to the point now where I'm a little bit more like that can't be right. So that's kind
Hmm.
of where I landed with the Beaumont line on this one. Um,
Yeah.
oh, and before I get off the line, I just look at the films and filth list if there's anything. I don't know if we have you down for anything recently. Let's see. I just scream a few movie names, and if any of them sound good, we can put you down if you're interested. Actually, we have a lot of guests. What do you know? Three Idiots. I don't know what that is, but it's on the good list.
Three Idiots. That sounds like a Steve Martin movie. It's not. It is.
No, no, it's on the good list. Braveheart,
Uh,
Memento. I'm just telling you. I can tell you bad list too if you want. Far
well,
Cry.
no,
Or
it's fine. These are just really like male oriented good ones so far. So I don't
yeah,
I don't think I
yeah.
have much to add on Memento.
No, I'm just literally going down and reading shit off the list. Bratz. There's a Bratz movie. Okay. American Beauty if you want your spacey.
Oof.
I I think I have to leave Mark the room. Mark is in charge of finding the room guest. Eh, yeah, honestly, I don't see anything here that you would probably. Those City Lights and it's down the list, but that's like a long time before you get to City Lights.
All right. Well, if you don't have somebody by the time that comes around, that would be a good
There's two
one.
chaplains because here's how the list goes: City Lights, Dumb and Dumber, When Harry Met Lloyd, and then Modern Times. I don't know how much of a chaplain person you are, but
I mean, I love Buster Moore, but I would pick Modern Times over City Lights for sure. I would love
okay.
to do
You
Modern
know what? I'll
Times.
just add your name there for that then.
Okay,
Modern
cool.
Times is better. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
No, we've actually filled it. I'm looking at the list here. I'm like, oh shit, we actually do have a lot of guests coming in for
that's great.
various films. Yeah.
Cool.
Um, Police Academy, Mission to Moscow. There's a fun one. Anyway, that's so far in the modern times will probably be like next year. So
Okay.
that's how far ahead that is. But yeah, those Twilight Zones obviously will be in a few months, but have a look
Okay.
at the list and we'll get back to you later. So I will hit the recording for those still listening at this point on the Patreon.